Hello, and welcome to Module 2 of RSO training. In this module, we'll be discussing key policies for your RSO. To start out, let's discuss hazing. The University of Chicago prohibits hazing. A person commits hazing when he or she knowingly requires a student or other person at the university to perform any act on or off university property for the purpose of induction, admission, or membership into any group, team, organization, or society that is connected to the university. This act is not sanctioned or authorized by the university and results in harm to any person or could reasonably be foreseen to result in such harm. A person's willingness to participate in an act of hazing does not justify or excuse the act or fall outside of this policy. Some examples of hazing include the creation of physical or mental exhaustion or fatigue, forced consumption of alcohol or other intoxicants, physical and mental shocks, paddling, physically or psychologically dangerous or risky activities, coercive, degrading, or humiliating games and activities, appropriation of public or private property, physical harm, and pressuring or coercing any person to participate in activities that are inconsistent with the university's community standards, policies, or applicable law. This list is intended to be illustrative and not all-inclusive. Any student or group that commits hazing will be subject to discipline under college housing discipline or the germane student disciplinary system as appropriate. A staff member, postdoctoral researcher, academic employee, or anyone with a visiting appointment who commits hazing will be subject to discipline under the applicable disciplinary processes. In addition, hazing is a crime under Illinois law. The state's attorney may bring criminal charges against any person responsible for hazing. Any person with knowledge of hazing is expected to communicate promptly with the Office of the Vice President of Campus Life, the Office of the Provost, the University of Chicago Police Department, or University Human Resources. Reports may also be made anonymously using the university's whistleblower hotline, the number provided below. Next, we will discuss protest and demonstration on campus. The primary function of a university is to discover and disseminate knowledge by means of research and teaching. To fulfill this function, a free interchange of ideas is necessary not only within the university, but also with the larger society. At the University of Chicago, freedom of expression is vital to our shared goal of the pursuit of knowledge. Such freedom comes with the responsibility to welcome and promote this freedom for all, even in disagreement or opposition. The right of freedom of expression at the university includes peaceful protests and orderly demonstrations. At the same time, the university has long recognized that the right to protest and demonstrate does not include the right to engage in conduct that disrupts the university's operations or endangers the safety of others. Conduct of members of the university disruptive of the operations of the university, including interference with instruction, research, administrative operations, freedom of association, and meetings, is prohibited and subject to disciplinary action. The Dean on Call will work actively to preserve an environment of spirited and open discourse and debate, allowing for the opportunity to have all participants contribute to intellectual exchanges and full participation in the event. The Dean on Call is not meant to be there in a disciplinary way. They are meant to support you. A few notes on noise level and building occupancy in your protest or demonstration. All protests and demonstrations held outdoors are subject to the same guidelines outlined in the Outdoor Events on Campus policy, which is linked in the Dig Deeper section of this module. For a protest or demonstration, attention must be paid to the occupancy limits and general safety of the university community in the space being used. Please see building occupancy limits and access linked in the Dig Deeper section of this module. Placards, banners, and signs generally are allowed, but may not be dangerous for others or impede the participation of others in the life of the university. The use of placards, banners, and signs are deemed to be dangerous or impede the participation of others. University officials will require the individuals carrying the placards, banners, or signs to move to a different location or remove their materials. Adherence to building closures is expected of people participating in a protest or demonstration within a university building, and university officials will require that protesters or demonstrators leave at the time of building closure. To further the effectiveness of your protest or demonstration, organizations and other groups of students organizing a protest or demonstration must make the appropriate arrangements with the staff for the Center for Leadership and Involvement and or the appropriate RSO advisor. The protest location must be approved in advance by the Center for Leadership and Involvement, and intended movements to other areas of campus or into buildings and offices must be expressed in the initial protest request and are explicitly approved in advance. This is to help you maintain a successful demonstration. Like all other events or activities at the university, a request to hold a protest or demonstration should be submitted no later than 48 hours before the start of the event and must be approved by the Center for Leadership and Involvement and or the appropriate RSO advisor. The RSO advisor, together with the dean on call, will be engaged with the student protesters and demonstrators during the event to help assure the event is effective, ensure participant safety, and does not disrupt the normal functioning of the university. Students are also asked to make appropriate arrangements to acquire city permits for events occurring on city sidewalks and streets adjacent to the university, and must adhere to city ordinances and applicable state and federal laws. Protests and demonstrations are normally permitted until or unless the university officials determine that university operations have been compromised and or the rights of others have been significantly infringed upon. Interference with instruction and research are viewed as particularly disruptive to the university. Application of this policy does not preclude the application of other university policies or regulations as may be warranted by a given situation. This might include the authority to direct, university ID policy, use of the Dean on Call program, and university disciplinary systems. Furthermore, a protest or demonstration that significantly disrupts the operations of the university or fails to adhere to building closures may lead to arrest and prosecution for violations of City of Chicago ordinances or state and federal statutes. A protest, demonstration, or event on campus may invite another form of protest. When these occasions arise, the expression of all parties is important. Please note that a separate protest area may be designated by campus and student life for those persons with views that differ from the views held by the event organizers. In order to ensure the safety of all participants, the University Police Department may require the attendance of one or more officers. All people participating in protests and demonstrations are expected to provide a form of university-issued or government-issued identification upon request from a university official. For full explanations of these policies, please visit the links in the Dig Deeper section of this module. Let's transition and talk about the alcohol policy. The university allows moderate consumption and or possession of alcohol on university premises at approved functions by those legally permitted to consume or distribute alcohol. Illinois law prohibits the consumption or possession of alcohol by persons under the age of 21, and the supplying of alcohol to any person under the age of 21. To request permission to serve alcohol at an event, please read and sign the guidelines and the event alcohol approval request form available in the Dig Deeper section of this module. Note that this form must be submitted to your RSO advisor for review and approval at least 2 weeks prior to the event. Persons serving alcohol must be at least 21 years old and have completed UCARE training, which is linked in the Dig Deeper section of this module. Amounts of alcohol to be served will be determined by the Center for Leadership and Involvement. This is determined by the length of the event and the number of guests. Groups must designate one student and one full-time staff or faculty member to be present for the entire event. Only beer and wine may be served, no hard alcohol. For events where individuals under 21 may be present, university staff or faculty may have to check identification and serve alcohol. Students will be allowed a maximum of 3 reasonably sized drinks. Fewer may be allowed based on the length of the event. Appropriate precautions must be taken to ensure that event participants under 21 do not have access to alcoholic beverages. Sufficient amounts of non-alcoholic beverages must be available, and adequate quantities of non-salty food must also be available. Consumption will be limited to an approved area only, and individuals may not bring their own alcohol to the event. There may be no reference to the availability of alcohol in any publicity for your event, and no alcohol may be served during the last half hour of an event. Finally, let's discuss the RSO travel policy. RSO travel must be consistent with the organization's mission statement and must not create undue interference with academic responsibilities. Remember, you are a student first. RSOs that are traveling must complete and submit the travel registration form via Blueprint no later than 10 business days before the scheduled trip. The form will be reviewed by your RSO advisor, who may have follow-up questions to ask or may require other information from you. The travel form must be approved by your advisor before travel can go forward. When students are driving for their RSO, whether in personal, rental, or university vehicles, all drivers must comply with the university's vehicle policy, which follows. RSOs must, as a part of the travel registration process, supply the Center for Leadership and Involvement with the names, CNET IDs, and cell phone numbers of all students traveling. Note that any trip taken without prior submission and approval and accurate registration and/or driver forms or other violations of this policy may result in individual and/or RSO discipline, and RSOs will not be reimbursed for travel expenses. We've mentioned the vehicle policy. Let's take a closer look. To drive for your RSO, you must meet the following driver qualifications. You must be a minimum of 18 years of age or meet rental car company minimum age requirements if you are renting a vehicle. You need to possess a valid United States driver's license for at least 2 years and have more than 2,000 miles of driving experience. Furthermore, you may not have received any moving violations, convictions, or court-ordered supervision. You must apply on an annual basis for driver approval. To be approved to drive, you should submit the following to the Student Activity Center or to your advisor at least 2 weeks before your trip. If you're driving a rental vehicle, you must submit the Vehicle Use Acknowledgement Form, the Student Vehicle Use Authorization Form, and a front and back copy of your valid United States driver's license. If you're driving a personal vehicle, you must submit the Vehicle Use Acknowledgement Form, the Student Vehicle Use Authorization Form, Student Personal Vehicle Use and Agreement Form, a Vehicle Inspection Form, proof of insurance, and a front and back copy of your valid United States driver's license. Links to all of these forms are available in the Dig Deeper section of this module. Any traffic citation or parking ticket issued is the responsibility of the driver. The university provides no legal or financial assistance to students who receive such citations. If the university is served with a citation because of the use of the vehicle, the student organization shall reimburse the university for its costs. When renting a vehicle, you do not need to purchase the rental company's insurance policy, and it is not reimbursable. The rental vehicle will be covered under the university's insurance policy as long as all appropriate paperwork is completed and the driver has been approved. We require you to follow driving rules and regulations while traveling for your RSO. Obey all traffic and motor vehicle laws, drive responsibly, assure that all vehicle occupants wear seat belts at all times, and drivers shall not pick up or transport any person who is not traveling on university-related matters approved by the Center for Leadership and Involvement. You should have your valid license in your possession at all times, be alcohol and drug-free. When in doubt, do not operate the vehicle in hazardous driving conditions, including heavy rain, fog, snow, or ice. Do not operate the vehicle if engine, brakes, lights, or steering are not operating properly. Do not adjust the radio, tape, CD player, iPods, or phones while driving. These may be played as long as the sound level is low enough to permit the driver to hear a car horn. Also, do not eat, drink, smoke, or use cell phones, including texting, while driving. For trips over 250 miles, no driver may operate a vehicle for more than 3 consecutive hours, more than 6 hours in one day. No student may ride in a vehicle for more than 16 hours within a 24-hour period on university-related matters. At least one person must be awake and in the seat next to the driver at all times, and no driving is allowed between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. In the event of an accident or emergency, please immediately report the accident to the Office of Risk Management as well as the approving office of the trip. In the event of emergency and you need immediate assistance, call the local authorities and dial 911. All traffic citations must be reported to the approving office, in this case the Center for Leadership and Involvement. In the event of an accident or emergency, remain calm and courteous. Prevent additional damage by getting safely off the road and turning off ignition as soon as possible. Record the facts and details, including the names and addresses of drivers involved and vehicle descriptions and plates. Give your information to other drivers and to the authorities. Do not express an opinion to who was at fault. Do not talk about the accident to anyone except for the police, the owner of the other vehicle, the rental car company, your RSO advisor, and the Office of Risk Management. You have now reached the end of training Module 2. Please complete the quiz and then move on to Module 3, which is linked in the Dig Deeper section of this module.